On my last trip to Yerushalayim, it was a rabbinic mission. 4 rabbis got into a cab, Erev Shabbos, on our way from our hotel down to the Kotel. Many of you have probably had this experience. I don't know if it's my bad luck, good luck, or good looks, but the cab driver seemed to smell that we were rabbis. And so inside of 3 minutes, our cabbie, aptly named Yossi Cohen, started to get into a conversation with me. I told him we're here from America, we're visiting, we're so excited to go to the Kotel. And he started asking me, why are we tested? And I didn't know what he was referring to. So I started probing him. This was in January. Why are we tested? So I was saying, well, what do you mean, why are we tested? You mean in general with the Middle East? He said, no. Why does Hashem test us? This is Erev Shabbos on the way to the Kotel. I said, well, I'm trying to figure out how to answer him while we're driving to the Kotel. I wasn't prepared to do a Q&A session, but apparently such was my lot. And so I decided to reach for the great journey to Yerushalayim in our Parsha. Vayera dvarim ha'ela va'Elohim nisa et Avraham v'amar elav Avraham v'amar hineni v'amar kach na et bincha et yichidcha asher ahavta et Yitzchak v'lech lecha al eretz haMoriah v'aleu sham le'olah al achad ha'arim asher omar elecha. I didn't quote the psukim for him in the car. Just asked him if he'd ever heard of Akedat Yitzchak. Of course he had. And said, yes, I've heard of it, but I can't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I said to him, the truth is, it doesn't always make sense to me either. We know there is a lesson here, and we know that there is a deep conflict for us and for Avram Avinu between the midot of Hashem, the attributes of Hashem, and the mitzvot of Hashem, or in this case, the mitzvah of Hashem. There was one, the commandment. How to reconcile those two. And the truth is, there is a mysterious dimension to the Akedah. Much has been written about it. And so I decided to share with this cab driver, and I'll share with you, as he pointed out to me, Hashem knows what's going to happen in the world. So he knows already what this person is capable of. I'm trying to race to figure out, is this person perhaps a person who is embittered in his relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Is he looking for an exit strategy? And therefore, since things don't add up, he's grasping for some way to justify perhaps a life that is not yet all that connected to Torah and mitzvot. Maybe he's genuinely curious. Maybe there's some destiny that's brought us together. All of this as we're waiting for the red light to turn red, yellow, and then green, and we start speeding up the ramp up to Shar Yafo. I'm running out of time. I pointed out to him that there are many different approaches to try to understand the idea of a test, that Avram Avinu, the great founder of Judaism, of which he and I are shared descendants. And he asked me where I'm from, what country in North Africa. I said, no, I'm actually from South America. He said, well, yeah, but your family's from Morocco or something. I said, no, I'm actually from Canada. I was trying to explain, I'm Ashkenazi. Anyway, he's Sephardi. We're going back and forth. I said, look, the Rambam. Rambam HaKadosh. Everybody's HaKadosh for him. Rambam HaKadosh. I said, yeah, the Rambam. The Rambam maintains that the function of a test is, in the case of Avram Avinu and the Akedah, so that Avram Avinu will teach the world. The formulation of the Radak is based on the Rambam. And that is, if the point of it was to teach the people who were alive in the days of Avram Avinu, the problem is there were only 2 people on that mountaintop. Davka Avram sent away the 2 lads. We left them at the base of the mountain. And he went up only with his son Yitzchak. Had he even told the story, who would even believe him? Vayemet, writes the Radak, it was to teach the rest of the world about the love that Avram Avinu had that was complete for Hashem. It was not made for that generation, but rather it was made for the generations in the future. The point of the Akedah, says the Radak, is to teach future generations, to teach us. The notion of going through a test. I think each of us has endured personal tests, moments when we felt that we were wondering, trying to understand, why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu putting me through this? I think one of the crucial lessons, and particularly as a test that we're enduring now. I speak here specifically of the ongoing pandemic and now the reports here in our own state about the way in which it is experiencing a pretty serious surge. They're calling it the second wave. That indeed, the earlier generations set down a path for us. What the Ramban calls, based on the Medrash Tanchuma, the Maseh Avot Siman Labanim. That which is the action of the forebears sets up a pattern, a paradigm, a sign for future generations. Now, we are so accustomed to knowing about the Akedah that the only test that we can think of that is parallel to the Akedah is literally, God forbid, lo aleinu, martyrdom. But in point of fact, and I've mentioned this before, Rosh Hashanah most recently, we're always experiencing some form of an Akedah, something that we love, that we feel we need to sacrifice, something that draws us near, and yet at the same time, we're confounded by, particularly our Judaism. I said to Yossi, again, now as we're rounding into the little narrow alleyways of the old city, do you understand, Yossi, you and I, we're driving down to the Kotel. It's so easy for us. And he's steering. I said, but you understand that Avram Avinu came here, there was nothing. You understand how many miles we've traveled to be able to sit, you and me, the Jew from the United States, born in Canada, you're from North Africa, the two of us together, we're just driving as if we were driving in a regular car, in a regular time, to a regular place. We're Erev Shabbat, Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh. Do we stop to realize that there was a path laid down for us? Avram Avinu endured in his life, say Chazal, 10 tests. V'Elokim nisa et Avraham. The Medrash describes very beautifully the imagery of what this represents, the way in which there was a certain path that was set down. As the Medrash Rabbah itself tells the story, Natat lirecha nes litnoses. You have given for those who fear you a banner with which to be elevated. So says the book of Tehillim. And the way that the Medrash describes it is as a nes, a miracle, but no, actually as a banner. That every nisayon, a test, is an opportunity to be in that banner moment. The question is what we will do with it. Yossi, I said to him, do you understand that whatever happens to you in your life, you are actually yourself setting up the path for the next generation? He waved his hand at me. He said, I think it's too late for that. I said, Yossi, you and me, we're having an interaction now. What a zchut it is for me to meet you and to realize that you are the vehicle. You're helping me to get to the Kotel. You help people in this city to get where they need to go. And who knows, in the friendly way that you're greeting me today, you don't know what my emotional state is. I was trying to say all this in Hebrew, of course, quickly. But I said to him, you're encouraging me. Tamachzikoti. You're giving me chizuk just in this ride itself. The Sfat Emet explains that there's something that's cosmic that's going on with these 10 tests that Avram Avinu had. The same way that we claim, as a matter of faith, that God created the world through 10 statements, 10 utterances, Asara Ma'amarot, so too do we believe that Avram Avinu was tested with 10 tests. The symmetry of the 10 and the 10, says the Sfat Emet, this is not accidental. The same way that those 10 statements were stated by Hashem, not as moments in time, but in a certain way, they're still being stated now, i.e., the world continues to exist because those statements were made, but on a certain level are being made. So too, those 10 tests not only happened in history, but are happening all the time. Our banner moments await us always. Some of us have struggled and are struggling with health issues, whether real or feared. Many of us are struggling right now with our place as Jews in America, great uncertainty about what comes next. Some of us are actually at this moment wondering how will we continue from an economic perspective to pay the bills with some of the stressors that we've been under over the last period of time. Each person has their own, what they call pekula. Each of us, however, also has a banner moment that awaits us. Avram Avinu began the journey with the Lech Lecha. Hashem told him, Lech Lecha me'artzim l'adcha me'beit avicha l'artz asher eka. And now in the 10th test, it was again a Lech Lecha. V'lech Lecha el eretz ha-Moriah. Go to the land of Moriah. The Lech Lecha appears only 2 times in all of the Torah. This is at the beginning of Avram's journey, and now at the apex of his journey. The whole journey, from beginning to end, bookending it, was about these blessings. The blessing that actually you'll be a great nation, that you will be blessed, and that indeed you will be a source of blessing. At the end of the Akedah, this comes full circle. Again, the same notion of the bracha. Etc. All of the nations of the world will be blessed through your progeny. To recognize this is to understand that the difference between a meaningless suffering and that which is actually making a difference in the world, even if you're alone in your home, even if you're suffering with your own health issue, the difference between these two is the recognition that some way, somehow, as confounding, upsetting, and quite frankly, sometimes seemingly, that which destabilizes or threatens to destabilize a person's emunah, God forbid, is actually itself a nisayon. What we do with it depends which pathway from Avram Avinu we want to seize upon. Is it the Avram Avinu who has the courage of his convictions to turn his back on his environment and to stand tall? The Avram Avinu who needs to make tough choices within his family in order to keep the peace? Is it the Avram Avinu who indeed finds himself at various points dealing with some very unsavory characters, but always and forever retaining a sense of morality and a proper way of interacting with others, as is befitting one who holds the banner of the Dvar Hashem, not as something that's a physical object, but in his persona? How he pleads in our own Parsha, not only that his guests should stay to welcome them, and the Nisayon that we hope we could have again, a great opportunity actually, of being able to be Machnis Orchim, and then to plead for people who by all accounts were actually wicked, but for whom he did not want to give up the hope that he could find something redemptive within them. Yes, this is the same Avram Avinu that is our forefather. And for all of us and each of us, we're all walking that walk closer to Yerushalayim. But on that way, there will always be great nisyonot. Of course, by this point, the car ride was well over. I was already still thinking about this. I'm walking up to the Kotel and seeing all sorts of people davening. This was before COVID, obviously. And then in those days, back in the day, people could shake hands, they could embrace. And I remember thinking as I'm going through the metal detector, it just feels so easy. But I know that it will only be a few steps before I will encounter another Jew from somewhere else, maybe not so close to Torah. Whatever the nisayon that they're enduring, maybe I can be mechazek them a little bit. In closing, the Netivot Shalom, the great Hasidic master, Rav Shalom Noach Berezovsky, in his Maimer and Parshat Lech Lecha, points out that all of the nisyonot of the world that pass within the life of a Jew, all of them are bringing a person to their tachlit, their destiny. Every individual gets their pekalab. Every individual has to deal with something that seems insurmountable. But he says, this brings a person to their tikkun, to their correction, whatever it is they need to do for themselves, to the ye'ud, to their destiny. And when the words are lech lecha at the beginning and lech lecha in our parsha, it means go to yourself, go to your destiny, go to what some would call the tafkid, to your purpose. And when you can do this, you can recognize that you too are a child of Avram Avinu. Yehi ratzon that in this period of great uncertainty and of challenge and of many morally corrosive forces, let us, all of us, continue to see ourselves as against the backdrop of an Avraham Avinu. The Medrash says it so beautifully in quoting that pasuk from Tehillim, the idea of being the nes lehit noses. It says that this nes, this banner, is like the nes shel sfina, the banner on a ship. And I think that's an apt image with which to close, based on this idea of the Nesivos Shalom. The idea that even if we're being buffeted by the storms, we should know that we are still sailing on, and that indeed our entire existence continues to be an opportunity to meet the nisyonot such as they are. Yehi ratzon, we should be worthy of that charge now. And in the days and weeks and months ahead, as we continue to grapple with COVID-19 and all of its attendant challenges, let's be hopeful that we understand what's happening to us also as a form of a nisayon, and to be able to tease out the ways in which hopefully we will raise the nes shel sfina, the banner of the great ship, that represents Klal Yisrael in this world that each of us is fortunate enough to be able to pilot. Wish you Shabbat Shalom and all the best.